Next, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our speaker. We are so fortunate to be able to have the 2012 National Teacher of the Year. As you heard Angelique indicate last night, Rebecca Mieliwocki is not only a wonderful, wonderful teacher, but her parents are members of this association. Let me tell you very shortly a real quick resume of some highlights regarding Rebecca. She's a 7th grade English teacher at Burbank Middle School, which has about 1,100 students in grades 6 through 8. She's been teaching for 14 years and has spent 9 in her current position. Rebecca has a bachelor's degree in speech communication from Cal Poly, her professional clear credential in secondary English education from Cal State Northridge. She is the 2005 California League of Middle School Educators of the Year for Southern California. 2009, she received the PTA Honorary Service Award winner. She's a BTSA mentor. Also served as a teacher expert at CSNU in terms of the College of Education in a panel entitled The ABCs of IEPs. Those are tough ones, aren't they? Rebecca, this is from the state superintendent, quote, Rebecca Mieliwocki is an inspiration to her students, to me, to every California teacher. She brings enormous energy, enthusiasm, and optimism to teaching. A career that has never been more challenging or more vital to our future. That's from Tom Tokus. Students learn when they are best given the opportunity to work with the most enthusiastic, engaged teachers possible. This is what Rebecca says. I firmly believe that teachers must be held accountable for their students' success, from helping them to meet personal and school-wide learning goals, to achieving their best in terms of state and local achievement. Folks, I'm so happy that we are able to have today with us Rebecca Mieliwocki. Will you give her a standing ovation and welcome her to the podium?
Hello? It is on. Okay. Gotta open up my speech. Funny things happen to me on the way to speeches. First, I want to thank Bill for that wonderful introduction and for Angelique for having me here today. And it's probably my 200th speech. And the craziest things happened to me. I just have to tell you. There was the time in San Jose before the National PTA where I cut my finger in the shower. Don't ask, it's the craziest story, but I cut myself really badly and I was bleeding to death. It was a psycho moment. I thought Norman Bates had gotten to me. And hotels, you know, the towels are all what color? They're so fluffy and lovely, and usually a stack of towels is such an exciting thing, except when you're bleeding profusely. You're afraid to touch them. You know, so I'm trying not to make the room in San Jose look like a crime scene, because I'm imagining the headlines. I'm the new National Teacher of the Year, and either she's been killed in the hotel room or she's killed someone. And I was just mortified that this would make the papers. Then there was a time in North Carolina when there was an electrical storm, and when you're from Los Angeles, It's like, well, today's a little gray, but it's sunny and 70 every darn day. It's so depressing. I'm from Napa, California, where we have seasons, and so I'm used to clouds and this thing called rain and wind that blows the leaves off the trees. LA doesn't have any of that. It's sunny and hot, and I think that seasonal affective disorder where it's depressing to me. So in North Carolina, there's this electrical storm, and it's spectacular. And I don't even know what this stuff is. It's like lightning bolts from the sky. And I'm doing my hair and makeup, getting ready for a speech, and I decide the show is just too great outside, so I unplug my curling iron and I go over to the windows, and I'm just proceeding to finish getting ready by the windows, and that's when my room was struck by that lightning bolt. And it knocked the power straight out, and I had curled this side of my hair. Not this side, no. There was a time in Florida where I forgot my Spanx. And for those of you of a certain generation, the word Spanx is probably not ringing a bell. Maybe the word girdle is something that you might recall. So a girl without a girdle, forget it, I wanted to go home. You probably heard the screams from Orlando. Today, nothing quite that dramatic happened, really, other than I ran into my parents in the lobby, and that was weird. I kind of felt like I was partying in the bar, and my folks wandered in and said, "What are you doing here?" So that was a little bit weird. But really the only thing that happened is that I have just been absolutely sick with envy about today's speech, about who I was coming to present to. I mean, I'm halfway into my career, and I love it, and it's exhausting. And I think so fondly about retirement, and the fact that you're retired already, I hate your guts. It's not fair. Oh my God, the things that you don't have to, no angry parents email you. No. You don't have to wake up in the morning if you don't want to. You can sleep in. I don't know what that's like. You don't have to wear clothes with waistbands if you don't want to. And you don't have to, do you even deal with photocopiers anymore? Can I just tell you, those photocopiers are taking years off my life. The jamming, and I've had to become an expert on how to unjam them. I'm a hero at my school for that reason only. None of this matters. It's because I can unlock the copier. And you don't have to go to any more faculty meetings. Although if you look around, if you look where we are, you're kind of unfaculty meeting. But they fed you, and you get to sit down for more than a couple of minutes, and no principal's nagging on you. So it's just lovely. I'm just sick with envy. I hope one day I too can be part of CalRTA, which is weird because you know that saying, like, I'd never want to join a club that would have me as a member. This is the only one. This is it. I would join this club because you would have me, and you are my people. And so the good news is that I am almost a retired person myself. I know I said I'm halfway through my career, but I was named National Teacher of the Year a year ago in April of 2012, and I have been on a whirlwind tour, which I'll tell you all about because we're going to go through what I did last summer in the slideshow. And the good news is this is my last speech in California, so this is it, and it is my second to last speech as the National Teacher of the Year. Tomorrow I get on a plane and fly to Melbourne, Australia. And I know, right? I feel like I won a prize on The Price is Right. Like I got what was behind door number 3. And I get to go to Australia, and that is where I will end my, my husband says, reign of terror. My term as the National Teacher of the Year. So in the time that I've been National Teacher of the Year, I have gone to 29 US states and 7 nations on the globe. And I never thought I would say this. I'm a little tired of getting on airplanes, just a little bit. I mean, I've had to origami fold my body into contorted positions to sit on these planes, and they charge you for everything now. I mean, I had to buy the armrest the last flight. Like I had to pay $7.50 on my card to use the armrest. It was ridiculous. At any rate, I'm hoping after next week I get to do a lot more of something you probably are familiar with, which is putting your feet up and relaxing. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. You know, I didn't start out to be a teacher. As a matter of fact, when I graduated from high school, the only thought in my mind was I want to do something completely different than my own parents do. My parents both retired public school teachers. And I think that's the thing. I have a child now who's 12. He's back here somewhere. And I think that's what kids grow up to do, is just literally break your heart in a million pieces. They just crush it. Because if they're like me and they rebel, and they say, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what my parents do. I'm not going to follow in their footsteps at all. I'm going to be a lawyer, which was so insulting. If there's any lawyers in the group, I apologize. But they were like, what? A lawyer? And I went off to college, and I just tried every possible conceivable way not to become a teacher. And after several years of sort of, as my husband says, farting around, he finally said, would you just figure out what it is you're supposed to do with the rest of your life? And I was like, I'm trying, I really am trying. And so he made me make this list of things I wanted to do the rest of my life, and things I never, ever, ever wanted to do again. And as he's looking at this list, he just cracks up. And he has that knowing look that our better halves always have. You know the one, where they're right, they're always right, they know what you should do, and you're just sitting there wanting to just smack him. And I'm going, how is it? He goes, I know what you're supposed to do. I can't believe you can't see it. Oh, I really wanted to get him then. And I said, all right, genius, what is it I'm supposed to do? And he goes, if you can't see it, I feel bad for you. Look at it again. And I looked at the list of things I wanted to do, and it was just really clear. I said, I think I'm supposed to be a teacher. He goes, you think? And so I started my credential program, and I got my English credential at Cal State Northridge, and at the minute I started, it was home. My DNA felt calmed and comforted. My ions all settled down, and it was just natural and normal. I felt when I was in the classroom like I was breathing air. I was home finally. All of it I enjoyed. The easy parts were easy. The hard parts were easy. I even am that weirdo that enjoys grading papers on the weekend, and I even like a faculty meeting or 2, or 10, 12, 14. I really like faculty meetings. And so when I started teaching, I think I have a picture of me in my first year teaching. Yeah, this is me, my first year teaching, so young, so enthusiastic, 26-year-old, just a human power plant of enthusiasm and excitement about teaching. And I was that teacher that like bounced into the principal's office, and on my first day was like, hi, I'm Rebecca, I'm so excited to teach this school. What do you want from me? What should I do? And I was so excited and looking for guidance and leadership, and I think I got a class set of textbooks and a slap on the back and good luck. I don't even think I knew where my classroom was. I just kind of wandered aimlessly around school until I got to an empty classroom. And so I was a little concerned because I thought, oh, they don't just cut you loose like this, do they? They let you just have a whole giant pile of high schoolers with nothing more than textbooks? I mean, I went and got my credential, but surely there's more. There's got to be like frameworks and standards, and there's got to be lesson plans, and I'm sure there are curriculum guides, and I know that I'll probably meet with my department a couple of times a week, maybe even today, and there was nothing. There was just crickets. And I was so scared. And so I kind of went and wandered in that wilderness where you write every single lesson plan for the first time ever, and you write every single quiz and every single test, and you're up until 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're doing it, you love it. And you do all the things that you know kids need to do in class. You make them get up out of their seats, and you make them talk, and you make them dance and sing and do math, and you make them learn how to partner together and do group work, and you make them show what they know every different kind of way possible. You do everything that you know kids need to do as they find their way in the world, and that whole like messy human quest for knowledge and understanding and 21st century competencies. I created all that my very first few years, because that's what good teachers do. In the absence of something, we keep that bar pretty high. We keep the bar of excellence and expectation really high over our kids' heads, because we don't stoop to meet kids or lower our standards. We always keep our standards high, but I always thought, gosh, there just has to be more. It can't just be this. This can't be it. And a few years later, something did come, and I was so happy. They were state standards. And I was like, oh, okay, this is good. And so I took that document, those 210 English language arts standards, and I thought, 210, how many school days? 196 teaching days, 210 standards to master, times 170 kids, and I wanted to quit right then and there, but I didn't. I took those standards to the principal's office, and I said, I'm very excited about these standards. What do you want? What should I do? And that same principal said, teach them. Go away, teach those things. And I was like, okay, sure, yeah, that sounds great. I'm really excited to do that. With what? How? Is there a curriculum? Are there standards? Are there lesson plans? I'm sure there's like frameworks, and I'll have people to meet with, and there'll be professional development, and I'm just so excited. And there was nothing. More crickets. And I went back to my classroom, hopeful, very hopeful, because at least now I have a target to aim for, and I did everything that I had done before. Only now I had a little bit more direction, and I wrote the lessons, and the kids did the work, and it was okay. I was fine. And I always thought there has to be more. This can't be all there is. And we'll file this under the category of be careful what you wish for, because in education, if you hang around long enough, there's always something around the corner that's coming down the pike, and you just can't see it yet. And that next thing did come, and it was state standardized tests. And I still looked like that and felt like that, because I wasn't too far in yet, so I was like, oh, this is great, okay, good. Finally, I don't have to write all my own tests. And I know somebody in official capacity, the really bright people in Sacramento have written tests. and for the first time, I'll have an independent evaluator take a look at my kids and at my teaching, and I'm sure that the results will be it will paint such a beautiful picture of my abilities and my kids' abilities and what they've learned, and then I saw the tests. 75 questions, multiple choice, random little nuggets of knowledge and information that on a good day, maybe half your kids might know, but no one's gonna get the dash question or the semicolon question or the Audubon Society underlined, oh, they're never, oh, okay. And I thought, not perfect, but I'll take it. And I mined the results for gold. Don't think I didn't. I gave that test every single year, and I looked at those results, and I used those results to make myself a better teacher and to help every successive generations of kids learn more from me while they had me. But I thought to myself, like I thought all those times before, there has to be more. There just has to be more to it than this. This can't be it. And I went to my principal and I said, there has to be more. And he said, oh, don't worry. More is here. And I went, of course there is. What is it? And they said, we'd like to use your test scores in your evaluation. And we would like your kids' test scores to tell us whether or not you're effective as an educator. And we're going to use those numbers to see how much value you add to the life of those children. And that answer chilled me to my very core. I did not react with that same face. I did not have that same enthusiasm and excitement. I was scared to death. Because I know, like you know, what test scores can and won't tell you. I know what they're good for. I know how I use them to make myself better. And I know that it was always a tool to develop me. It never was meant to show exactly everything I taught and everything my kids knew. And I got very, very scared. And I stopped asking administrators what they wanted and what I should do, because that answer was so scary to me. And I go around the country talking about the kids whose lives I've changed, and there are lots of them. And I'm not going to tell you about all of them. But just for example, as I go around talking to policymakers and decision makers, I share with them the story of Lizzie, a girl I had a couple of years ago who came to me with perfect test scores, perfect scores. Hero. I was going to love this child. She could not write a sentence. And I thought if any of her work were published on the front page of the Burbank Leader, I would be horrified. I would not want to say I was her teacher. And so I set about the work of making sure this young lady could write, that she was not afraid to work in groups with colleagues, that she was proud and strong and skillful enough to stand up and communicate, both writing and verbally, and I did that work. You would not see the work that I did with her if you just looked at her test scores. I would look like the most rock star teacher in California with those scores, but I had no claim to them. I don't frankly know how she got them. And so that's one way that using test scores to determine if teachers are any good is very, very tricky and troubling. There's this kid, Max, who right before I had him in 7th grade, I got word from his counselor, Miss Spellman, that his mother had breast cancer. And it was stage 4, and it was very aggressive and not looking good. And I spent a year with this kid in that kind of agony that only someone whose mother is dying when you are 12 can go through. He acted out. He tuned out of every single lesson. He hurt kids. He stole stuff. He was a festival of misbehavior. And all this kid wanted me to do was quit on him. With every action, with every cuss word, with every time he lashed out, he was saying, get rid of me, let me go, I gotta get out of here, I'm dying here. I gotta get away, and I refused to send him out. Where did we go? We were in the hallway an awful lot, Max and I. Yes, we were. Talking to this kid about his behavior and how I knew he was in pain, but I needed him to stay. That he was never more needed and more welcome than right here in this classroom, that he had work to do, and that I understood that he was hurting, that it would hurt us more if he left us, so please stay. And I spent all that time in the hallway counseling him on that misbehavior, more than I ever did teaching him paragraphing or pronouns or punctuation, but that little kid learned something. He learned that when the chips are down, quality people hang in there with you, and oftentimes they're your teachers. And that year his test scores cratered in like no kid's craters in. Because when your mom is dying, do you care about your test scores? You sure don't. And so would you see the value that I gave to this kid's life if you looked at his test scores. You wouldn't. But I have this picture, taken when he graduated as an 8th grader, promoted is what they say. He promoted to high school, and he was the salutatorian. He'd gotten his grades back from the precipice, and in 8th grade graduated with honors and was asked to give a short speech at commencement. And he said, when I was in 7th grade, my world fell apart. It was darker than it would ever be. And I had a teacher who refused to quit on me. She said, I see greatness in you. Don't give up on yourself. Stick around. I need you to be here. And here I stand today, carrying that same message to all of you going off to high school. There's greatness in you. There's something special. When times are dark, don't give up. Lean on the people who love you and care, even if they're your teachers. And I didn't get to hear that speech. I was already traveling as the National Teacher of the Year, but word got back to me. His test scores were terrible. But did I have an impact on that child's life? I know I did. And it means more to me than my test scores. This kid, Charlie, we've all had Charlie. Charlie is 2.5 feet tall. He is little, he is loud, and he aims to entertain, not in the ways that are productive to your lesson or your goals for the day. Oh, no. This is the kid that only has outside voice, no inside voice. And he meets you and screams at you and says, hi, my name's Charlie Lynn, I'm a terrible student, and I dare you to teach me. And that's what it is. It's a defense mechanism. He was daring me to teach him. And I didn't do anything miraculous with this kid who was reading 4 years behind grade level and had all D's and F's. He was a frequent flyer in the principal's office, and not for the right reasons. Not for the right reasons. And any great teacher is responsive enough to know that that kind of kid is daring you to teach him. And I set out to be different than all the teachers that he had before me, who were great themselves, but for some reason this kid made it to 7th grade with this attitude and approach. And I didn't do anything heroic except make him come in early and stay late. And I made him eat lunch with me 3 times a week, and we worked on his homework. And I made him do it over and over and read it and check it and spell it and type it and show it to me over and over and over. I called home, I met his parents, and one time I even went to his house to deliver some work that he had missed. And what I saw there was really scary. I saw parents working so many jobs they were never home. And this kid surrounded by older brothers who had dropped out of high school and were well on their way to having drug problems. I saw a kid without enough food to eat, not even a place to do homework. And I realized right then and there, this kid needs a lot more than a teacher to help him get over that achievement gap and that opportunity gap. He needs somebody to help him jump over the love gap and the hunger gap and the opportunity gap. Every gap imaginable, this child needs help with, and I gave him that help. And the beauty of Charlie, the gift that he gave me, is that oftentimes you do that work with kids all the time. And you might see results, but more often than not, kids discover that school's pretty hard if you're going to do well, and they give up after 1 or 2 ideas or sessions with you. This kid hung in for all of it, and we watched that ship turn around and sail into a successful harbor in the year that I had with him. And by the end of the year, he had an honor roll-worthy report card, and he was on the dean's list in the principal's office, not in the dean's office getting in trouble. And this is a kid who now reads at a 6th grade level, which is quite an achievement. He started with me at a 3rd grade level. He's now up to a 6. He left 7th grade at a 6th grade level. And he introduced himself to his 8th grade teacher, Miss Good, with an inside voice. And he said, my name's Charlie. And I wasn't a very good student last year, but I had Mrs. Mieliwocki and we worked really hard. I'm excited to be in your class. I think it's going to be a good year. His test scores were just okay. They were just okay. Proficient, you would say. But did I have an impact in this kid's life? Did I take him from 7 straight years of failure and seeing himself as such to somebody who believed he could succeed at school? That's Herculean and enormous, and I'm more proud of that than anything because of the gift he gave me to watch it happen before my very eyes. You will not see the value that I added to his life if you look at his test scores. And the story of Andy, one of my favorites. Andy's a 12-year-old boy in my class. He's gifted, he's brilliant, he gets top scores on all the tests. He is also gay, and he is out. And on a middle school campus where kids are figuring it all out, they're navigating new friends, new personalities, that whole social, emotional terrain, which is so treacherous when you're just ordinary. But if you're gay and you know it, and you're brave enough to be out, you certainly have the cuts and the scars and the bruises to show for it. And so this child spends many a lunch hour in my classroom, and I am happy to open that door for him. I am safe harbor for kids like Andy. And we talk about books and life and TV and parents and family and love and kids. We talk about it all. And it has been the great joy of my life to be able to make this kid feel like he's welcome and that he belongs and that he has some value. And early on in our conversations, he admitted to me that he absolutely loved the show Glee. And one of the great ways that the universe aligned for me this year was after being named National Teacher of the Year, the show called and wanted to have me down to the set. They wanted to, make a fuss over me and present me with an award, and the cast wanted to meet me. And I said, I think that's wonderful, and I would love to come, and I know you want to make it about me. Can I make it about Andy, one of my students? And it all worked out, all the paperwork, we got all the permissions, and I was able to take Andy to the set of Glee. This is me and Andy and Miss Inokian, my social studies teaching partner, on the stage where they filmed so many of the dance and musical scenes. And they brought me out, they made a big fuss about it, stopped production and had me out, and their teacher, Will Schuster, who is the actor, who plays the teacher, he had just been named their Teacher of the Year, and they thought it'd be really cute if he presented me with another Teacher of the Year award from their school. And so they were giving me a speech about how important teachers are, and the work that we do is so necessary and vital, and that we really build kids into the right kind of people that they're supposed to be. And after they were done, I thanked them, and then I took that opportunity to say, I need to tell you how important your work is. That a show like yours, filled with such music and such happiness and such joy and such just a showing of whole human emotion that is happy and wonderful, your show gives kids like Andy a place to feel safe, a place to feel happy for 5 minutes. The idea that there's a tomorrow that includes them, a kid like them, that is happy and musical and beautiful, and thank you for what you do. And at that moment, we brought Andy out. It's a little blurry, but they mobbed him. They hugs around from everybody. He got kisses on the cheeks from them all, and this was the happiest kid ever. And I'm not saying that if you are the National Teacher of the Year, or even to be a great teacher, you have to take your kids to movie sets. Not at all. But it's impossible for most people. I was just lucky enough. But can you be safe harbor for kids in need? That's really what great teachers do, is make you see kids, honestly and truly see who they are and accept them and give them a place to grow and flower. And that's what I got to do. Would you see that in his test scores? If you look at me through the lens of his test scores, you will not see it. And so I go around the country talking about all the ways that great teachers impact kids' lives for the better and put them squarely on their own path to personal greatness. And if we just use test scores to evaluate teachers, we will do away with that heroic, epic, humble, and yet everyday work that teachers do, and that is a crime. And no strong teacher really will stand for it. There is so much more that I do that I'm proud of, that makes me the person that I am when I'm proud to say I'm a teacher. Please look at all of that. That's what I say to the decision makers. And so it's that passion about teaching, it's that passion about the whole job and all of what we do that I think got me the attention and the recognition as National Teacher of the Year, because I certainly know I am not the best teacher in this country. There are 3.2 million of us. How would you even go about finding the best teacher? There isn't one. I work with some of the most incredible educators I've ever known. I have helped clean their classrooms, I have chaperoned their field trips, I have stolen their best lesson plans and given them no credit when they succeeded. Those teachers are out there, and I am so lucky to get to work with them. But I have the same qualities that they all have. I have an absolute passion for my job and a thirst for getting better at it every single day. I have a warm and welcoming heart for every kind of kid and their potential that they bring into my classroom. I have an absolute admiration and abiding respect for the people with whom I have chosen to do my life's work, my colleagues. I love spending time with them. And underneath it all, I have the unshakable understanding that with a strong education, boys and girls can do anything they set their mind to. It is that for why I was recognized as the National Teacher of the Year. The ceremony in the White House was an amazing one. It was a year ago. I had an opportunity to spend 10 or 15 minutes behind the scenes with the president. My father and mother, husband and son, all got to go into the White House and meet the president. And I wanted to remember this day really forever, and I know I would have photos, but I wanted more than that. I was very greedy about this experience and wanting to keep it forever and ever and ever. And I teach 7th grade English, and we talk a lot about sensory impressions, because we're trying to become great writers, and to become a great writer you have to really take in all that the world is offering you visually and through all the ways. And we know that olfactory sense is the strongest for memory correlation, that if you can capture the smell of a place, you'll remember it forever and ever and ever, even 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. You'll catch a whiff of something and it's your childhood home, or it's grandma, or it's your first car. And so I told my students when I was getting ready to leave for the White House that I wanted to remember this forever, and this was a subtle test. I don't do anything on accident. I said to the kids, is there anything I could do to help remember this moment forever? And I was testing them to see if they'd been paying attention during my lessons. One kid up front raised his hand. I know what you gotta do. Okay, yes, Jeremy, what do I have to do? You have to smell the president. Yes, Jeremy, I do have to smell the president. So I practiced for 3 months. I took yoga, Pilates, yoga lattes. I didn't even know that existed. And I learned how to inhale without making any sound or any movement. So it came time for the big hug. And we meet, and first he throws me off guard by saying, it's you. And I did what I'm sure you did when you met the president, is look behind you to see who he was talking to. And I said, well, it is me. And then we pulled it into hug harder, and I get my head right up there, right where his like neck and chin meets the shoulder, and we're hugging, and I take my opportunity, and I inhale deeply. And I'm waiting for it, and it's all, my brain is processing, like, okay, shampoo, cologne, aftershave, detergent, starch, power, nothing. And I realize I'm in big trouble because I spent all those months practicing how to inhale, and I never practiced how to exhale, which is a great lesson for a teacher to learn, to go a little further than step 1. So I did that weird thing where I exhale and I made a lot of really weird sounds. I'm sure it's kind of like, where I just deflated the balloon, that was my lungs. And I had to go again because I was sure I missed it, so I got in a little closer and I went again. But I didn't make that sound, because that would be alarming, right? Nothing. And at this point, I'm going, you're going to have to go a 3rd time. This is getting ridiculous. Maybe you should change shoulders. And so now I don't change shoulders, but I am rooting around in there. I'm like snuffling. And I think he thinks I'm like fainting or having a heart attack or stroke or something. And that's when Secret Service broke us up. The officer was like, do you two know each other? This is creepy. The president thought it was hilarious. There was no scent whatsoever, and that creeped me out all on its own. Like, that was weird. Like, I already knew, like, ooh, it's the president, but now he has no smell. Is he of Earth? I don't know. From here, we went out and had the ceremony. We went from behind the scenes to on stage at the East Room of the White House, broadcast several channels, including, oops, let me back up. Oh, there's us, there we were. Lovely. Those 2 people are sitting right there. And the other 2 people are back there. We're going to recreate a photo. If somebody would like to be the president, we'd love to have you. The ceremony was broadcast on C-SPAN, so I knew it was going to be incredibly boring, and we might not survive it. So I was just focused on making sure not to bring shame and dishonor on my parents or my family name, so I was standing up straight, chin out, butt back, shoulders up, hands crossed, don't say anything embarrassing, don't wet your pants, don't puke, don't faint, don't fall down, don't do anything wrong. This is on C-SPAN, and it's the president. And I'm sitting there, over off to the side, standing there listening to the president, thinking it's going to, party's over, now it's time for seriousness. And right off the bat, he goes off script. And he's supposed to be reading my bio, but he inserts joke after tease, after ribbing, after joke, and now he's making fun of me in the best ways. Like if you had a big brother who was teasing you, who also loved you, and was the leader of the free world, who was giving you the highest award for your profession, but who is also taking every chance possible to get a jibe in now and then. And I just kind of had an out-of-body experience because I was saying, I knew today was going to be great. I had no idea it was going to be my exact personality great. Like, he's completely having fun with this. And at one point, he left the podium to fist bump me, and I fist bump my kids all the time. I know how to do that. I'm not that old. But when the president's coming at you with dukes up, I don't think you can fist bump the president. I'm not sure. And I'm over there, and who pops into my head? Not my mother, not my father, not my grandmother. Mrs. Redwish, my 2nd grade teacher. manners. Very proper lady. She has passed, God rest her soul in heaven. In my voice comes, one does not put one's hands on the president, which I'm not sure what she was doing telling second graders that. She must have thought we were destined for greatness. So there's this moment where I'm all trying to play along and I go Dukes up and then he gets close and then I freak out and go, because I don't think you can do that. You'll get tackled by Secret Service, and that's already happened once today, and I think that's enough. We had an incredible ceremony, and it was wonderful and such an honor. We posed for that fun picture. From here, I got to go meet Senator Barbara Boxer, California State Senator, incredible lady, also 2.5 feet tall. Incredibly powerful. She carries this wooden orange crate in her purse, which she pulls out and steps up onto for pictures and speeches at podiums. I'm not kidding you. She pulled that sucker out so fast and took that picture, and I was trying not to laugh, but I thought, wow, there's no shame in her game. She's just got it going on. Had an opportunity to go meet Dr. Biden, the Vice President's wife. She herself an educator, not retired yet, but she teaches English literature at a community college in Virginia and is very, very passionate about military families. And she told a great story to us about being mindful of our students, that as great teachers, as our state's teacher of the year, she knows that we care very deeply for our students, and we pride ourselves on knowing who they are and what their life circumstances are. But that to go the extra mile, to find out if any of your students have family members who are serving or actively deployed, so that you can support those children in different ways that would help make their road more bearable. And she told a great story about a kindergarten class, and I think it was Chicago, where one of the little girl, Natalie's dad, was deployed in Afghanistan, Anbar province. And the teacher got a hold of Natalie's mom and asked for like a squadron photo or a squad photo of all the guys and girls on deployment. And so she sent it in and she taped it up beside the schoolroom, the classroom door. And every day when the kids were coming in from lineup, they would tap the picture and say, "Hoorah" for Natalie's dad. And I thought that was the sweetest thing. I immediately went back to my classroom and was like, all right, which one of you have a parent who's deployed? Who? And they were all like, calm down, Miss Mieliwocki, you asked that yesterday. I just became obsessed with wanting, to do that exact same thing. They flew me to be on CBS this morning with Charlie Rose, who I love and adore, but is the world's grumpiest man, right? Wow. He was just so angry about teachers and education, and he wanted to talk about test scores and standards and where we are in international rankings, and he was just so crabby. I said, you need some more coffee. But managed to be happy and cheery and tell great stories about us and education, and they've had me up a couple of times since then, and it's always great to be on national TV and to present a face of education that is happy and positive and warm and articulate and successful, and to not be whiny and crabby and complaining. I think that's a nice thing to do for teachers in the country, so I was glad that they had me. The Ellen Show is interested in having me down, and it's all fun and games until you have to walk and dance at the same time. I can't even dance, and walking, iffy, really iffy. So, but the wonderful thing about the Ellen Show was that she gave $50,000 to my school. And in a complete utter irony, that money for schools and teachers went directly to, get this, the school and the teachers. Can you believe it? The money went right to us. That's never happened in my time teaching. They always promise all the money, and then where did it, what, okay. So we used the money to buy an iPad cart, a cart full of a class set of iPads that were networked and have a printer that kids in different classes can use to do research and fun online projects. We also updated a couple of garden spaces, and well, they were blighted spaces on campus that got turned into gardens. And we got some training for teachers in Common Core, and the money went exactly to the people who would use it the most enthusiastically and the best use of the money. So I was very thankful to the Ellen Show for that. Got to go to the set of Glee, which you knew all about. Got to throw out pitches at 2 baseball stadiums in Southern California. That was a lot of fun. They sent me to space camp, where they did what they promised they'll do, which is make you barf. They fling you around the planet in all kinds of simulators, the Vomit Comet, the Barfatron 5000, they threw you up in the air, they slam you down into a lake, you're in a flight suit that does make your butt look big, yes. But it was a ball. I had so much fun, and as an English teacher nervous about her science and math skills, to go to a place where all comers are welcome, and that you do have enough knowledge to have a lot of fun here with these scientific labs and experiments that we were doing was such a ball. They even had a game where I got to pilot the space shuttle. This isn't me, I'm not anywhere near that photo, or in any of those vehicles, thank God. Because in the simulation, I crashed the shuttle twice into a swamp. Not being a gamer or any kind of video, anything, I was distraught. I was just crying at the cockpit. I'll back up and see that picture of me on the left. That's the cockpit. You have to run the joystick, and I just kept crashing that sucker. And I'm very patriotic, and I'm so proud whenever any aircraft goes up and comes back down. It's such a miracle of flight that I crashed the space shuttle. I was crying, and I was asking, does the president know? Does the president know that I crashed the space shuttle? And they're all like, it's a game, Mrs. Mieliwocki. It's a game. Stop crying. You're getting the control panel wet. Stop crying. That was a lot of fun. Then they send me everywhere. They send me all across the world so that I can go to the top schools in the world to get some understanding of what people are talking about when they talk about the international rankings. You know, that's all we hear about is America's failing. We're falling behind. All the other nations are ahead of us. You are broken. You are terrible. And these comparisons are so disheartening. They're stressful. And they make us feel like we're doing a terrible job. And they send me overseas so that I can understand, what do #1 schools look like? What do they do there? What secrets can I bring back? And I have some exciting news to share with you. First of all, that these tests are not given to every kid in every other country. They're only given to the kids that are lucky enough and rich enough to go to school. But all of our 10th graders take this test, and a random sampling is sent into the numeric data crunching that they do. So it's a pure sample here and a random sample, and there it is not. So we're comparing apples to oranges. And the other thing I saw was that in every school I went to in China, in Japan, and Russia, and by the way, they do send me everywhere. There's Russia. I went to a teacher's festival there. And the cool thing about this picture is the gal to the left of the gentleman, her name's Tatiana, and she is a 7th grade English teacher in Siberia, Russia. She is my age, she has a son my age, she teaches the subject that I teach, she brought a stack of papers to grade like I did, and we talked about all the same things. And just to know that literally all the way across the world in Siberia, the most remote place you could ever even imagine, there is someone that looks just like you, doing the exact work that you're doing, worried and stressed about the exact same things, and passionate and as happy about the same things you are. That was such a mind blower to me, to have so much in common with teachers everywhere. Went to China and looked at their best schools. Went to Singapore, looked at their best schools. Went to Japan, looked at their best schools. And then got to go, oh, they made me eat strange things in Japan. Sea urchin. Sea urchin. This is the face one makes when about to eat sea urchin. And this is the face that they made laughing at me. What's the problem, lady? Got to go to Amsterdam to the teaching summit. And so here's what I saw. I just want to bring this back to you. Is that I went over there looking for the greener grass. I did. I was certain to find the magic sauce, the secret formula. I was going to bottle it and bring it back and share it with every teacher in California, if not the country. And what I found there was kids going to school from sunup till sundown. Kids being lectured all day long and all night long. I never saw any computers in any classroom anywhere I went, not one place, except for Singapore, and that was one classroom. I didn't see anyone using technology. I saw no collaboration. I saw nothing on the walls of the classrooms. I saw no teamwork. There were no field trips, no art, no music, no PE. There is no dance, there's no choir, there's no drama, there's no debate team, there's no newspaper, there's nothing but English, math, social studies, science, all day and all night. And I said, well, what about field trips? Do you guys ever take field trips, to see art or cultural, anything? And they're like, our parents would riot if we took kids away from school for that. They would consider that a waste of time, Rebecca. And I said, that's crazy, because where I'm from, my parents would riot if we didn't. They would not tolerate an education that looks like what I'm seeing over here. Not one of them was happy. Not one of them was, they were proud to be #1. There was a little bit of, yes, we know we're #1, and that gives us some comfort. But every single place I went, we were the envy of other schools and other teachers. And everywhere I went, this is what they said: how do you do it? We know that we're #1, and we know our kids can go to any college and ace any test, but they cannot create an iPhone. They cannot solve the problem of cancer. They cannot create anything new or innovative. Your kids are so confident. They are so creative. They love talking and communicating. You have to shut them up. Your kids are so loud. They love abstract thinking. They are nimble thinkers who can handle divergency. Your kids love the fact that a problem could have 7 different solutions and all could be equally viable. They get excited by that. That is a fearful idea here in an Asian culture. There is always and only one right answer. You tell it to me, I will memorize it, and then I will tell it back to you. We understand that we might be first, but we know that we will never win the race of 21st century global excellence if we continue to educate our kids the way we have been. So can we come back and study you some more? And I was so heartened by that, because I thought, whoa, I went over there looking for the greener grass, and it turns out that ours is a very coveted and highly spectacular shade of green all of its own. And I'm not sure teachers know that or believe it, and they should. We were the envy of every single place I went, and that was great news. The other great news was that on these international rankings, the US has never placed first or second or third or fourth or fifth. We've never been in the top 10. We entered at 15th. We came up one time to 13th. We moved to 19th, and we're back about 15, 14. We've always hovered right there. Why? Because we educate every kid who comes in a schoolhouse door. Every kid, rich, poor, black, white, green, they all get to come and get a free public education, and we do the very best that we can with them. And when you do that, and when you have to overcome things like the achievement gap and the opportunity gap, well, you're just always going to be about 15. That's just how it's going to be. But if you factor out for poverty and for income disparities and socioeconomic statuses, our top tier always first, compared to every other nation on the planet, always first. After that, it becomes China, Korea, Finland, Singapore. So we have much to be proud of, and we don't talk enough about that. So I'm glad to get to bring back that message for you today. I don't know if you recognize these people. They are sitting up front. They are my parents, my father and mother. It was the 70s, so we apologize in advance for the hair. We really do. Mine especially, and then that's my dad teaching. I sort of cut off the part where his feet are up at rest on his desk, because I'm not sure that's an approved pedagogical teaching method, is to be sort of sitting, kicking back, but it sure shows you the kind of relaxed aspect that my father took while teaching, although he was an incredible educator, as is my mother, who taught 6th grade for many, many, many years. And the exciting part about my year is not only have I had an opportunity to travel the country and the world talking about what great work teachers do to change kids' lives and to strengthen this nation, I'm just so happy to get to talk to decision makers and policy makers and people who are thinking about bashing education and people who are thinking about entering education and people who have left education. I'm so thrilled and honored to get to carry our story, the story of our tribe around this beautiful planet, primarily because it has such a beautiful and happy ending. The story of us, it does. Because, I was recently talking to the National Council on Teacher Retirement in Tucson, Arizona at the start of my year. And they're the people that hold all of our money, and do great investments with it so that we can retire. And I said, there is no better investment on this planet than a teacher, because they spend their careers educating other people's children and putting them on a path of excellence that strengthens this nation like never before. The work we do knits the country so tightly together, this fabric of our nation, that it can never be torn asunder. That's what we do when we're at work. And when we're done teaching those kids and helping those kids' lives improve, well, we go next door and we meet with our colleagues. And we learn how to be better teachers, or we cry on one another's shoulders, or we go figure out how to unstick the copier. But we collaborate and work together. And then when that's over and we retire, well, what do? Do we sit with our feet up? No. We join organizations like this, or we join Wounded Warriors, or we join any organization, and we continue to give, because that's what teachers do. They are on a constant, lifelong journey of giving back. And the beauty of this job is that the more you wring yourself out doing it, the more you absolutely and utterly empty yourself into kids and communities and organizations like this, the more fulfilled you are. It is the gift that this job gives us, whether we're working or whether we are retired. And it has been my absolute and utter glory to get to go around and spread the message of us. And I know I'm one voice here today, but I do, for another couple of minutes, represent the 3.2 million more of us. 30% of the American teachers live in this state. And so I'm one voice today, but please hear the message that I'm carrying to you from the 3.2 million that I represent. I am so grateful, we are so grateful for your service and your work in strengthening this country. You chose to change the country and the future, one kid at a time. Every day that you came in and poured yourself into those classrooms, you changed the world for the better, and you made this planet a better place for us all to live in. Teachers today are continuing to do that work. Just like you did, we go forward into our classrooms every single day and try to be what you were and what you are now. Givers and changers, and strengthening this country one kid at a time. Thank you very much for having me here today.